I really appreciate. So, well, let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. I think I currently do not have the permission to share my screen. Could you help out?
All right, sir. All right, sir.
So I still can't share.
Okay, I think I may have to get Nigerian Phillips to do that. And quite
Okay.
unfortunately, as a co-host, I can't ask you to be the co-host and to help you to share the screen. So,
Okay. So let's just wait for him to do that. I think we can just wait till maybe like 105. Yeah, I think I can share my screen now. Okay. Can you guys see my screen now?
yes, better, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Really, you can see my slide, right?
Yes, sir. You can see it, sir.
Oh, okay, okay. That's nice. Thank you very much. Ah, so let me start by welcoming you all here once again. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Because the topic on ground now, the graduate school webinar series, covering so many aspects, navigating US graduate school applications, scholarship opportunities for graduate students in the US, code mails, statements of purpose, and others. So this is really a big thing, but still not a big thing. But we need to just talk about it one after the other. And I would really want you guys to be very attentive and listen up so well, so you can have some things to grab from this presentation. Yeah. So let me first start by sharing my own personal experience regarding this journey. Because when it comes to graduate school, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We are hearing, sir.
Oh, okay, okay. So when it comes to graduate school application process and the journey entirely, I need to be sincere with you guys. It is always very challenging, emotionally demanding, and it is brain tasking, to be honest. So it's only when you feel, no, I need not to give up at this point in time. That is when you'll keep going, honestly. Because at some point, we just feel like, no, this is not how it should be. Or maybe this is not the right thing for me to do at this point. So it is normal. In the process, you'll feel depressed. You'll feel like, no, what is really happening to me? Others are getting it like easily. Why is it happening to me this way? Why is everything very hard for me? It's not hard for you. The thing is, fine, you have been knocking different doors, but you haven't knocked the right door. That's just it. So you only need 1 yes to change the story. Just 1 yes to change your story. So the goal here is just not to give up. You just have to keep trying. That's just it until you get that 1 year that will eventually change your story. So before I go deeper into my presentation, I need to share my own personal experience. So which is going to span through different aspects of application. So let me start with navigating the application process. So I think that was in 2022 when I started my own application. I was overwhelmed. I need to be sincere with you guys because there were so many requirements that I needed to meet, but I did not have all of that. So what did I do differently? So I had to create a spreadsheet with list of schools that I wanted, the deadlines and the requirements that I needed to meet then. So when I was able to do that, it gave me a sense of direction and control. So from there, I was able to start like ticking the box. I started doing that step by step. And from there, I was able to like gain that sense of control and direction on how to go about things. So I was able to organize my things, and it lets me know where to go and where not to go, what to follow and what not to follow, and how to and how not to. So through spreadsheet, I was able to keep track of my application progress, and I was able to know what is the next thing for me to do. So that helped. So another thing was the scholarship struggle. So I could remember when I started applying for schools and scholarships, we have several scholarships out there, like our Chevening, we have our Commonwealth, we have Erasmus Mundus. I started applying because I was very, very desperate to like get an offer just for me to go to school and leave Nigeria, because I know how it was over there back then. So I wanted to leave. But I was trying all these opportunities and I did not win any of the scholarships. At first, I felt very discouraged, but what happened? Because of my resilience, I was able to like get an assistantship from my department that covered my tuition. So the only lesson I learned from that was that don't hang everything on one opportunity. Apply widely, because help can come from unexpected places. So as I was trying scholarships to Europe and some other countries, I was just applying randomly to Australia, this and that, US as well. Even though I was getting a lot of rejections, I was able to eventually like secure one fully funded offer. So that's just the spirit. Don't give up. I know rejections are just part of the journey, but you need to know how to navigate and don't feel depressed or down when these things are kind of like difficult like this. So that's another part of the challenges that I actually like faced. So another thing is in the aspect of the code emailing. When it comes to code mailing professors, that can be very challenging as well. When you start reaching out to professors and you would realize that, oh, I have sent like 50 emails out to different professors and no single response. Yes, it happens. Maybe there is something you are not doing right, or maybe you are just unlucky. So it happens. That's just one part of the story. So from my own end, I think the very first time I could mail a professor, I wrote a very long message, like a lengthy message that included all my background, because I was trying to impress the professor. Like, I have done this, I have this, and that. But unsurprisingly, I got no response at all. I got no reply. So I was doing the same thing over and over again. I wasn't getting any response. Not until I got a kind of follow-up from a mentor that this is what I have been doing for some months now. When the mentor like read through my code email, like sample of it, and he had to respond, what did you write here? This is too long. This is too long. You need to keep it short. Your code email basically just needs to like include your like basic introduction of yourself, who you are, why you would like to work with that particular professor on that particular research area. And you also have to add the skills that you think you have that you can add to that particular research in order to contribute to the lab of that particular professor. That's just all that you need to do. You don't even need to like write the whole stories about your life and everything because you want to get any favor from a professor. So when I started keeping things short, I started like that. Then I realized I was getting responses from professors within like less than 48 hours. So the thing is, even though not for all of them, at least like 60% of the code emails that I sent out, I was able to get response for that. So one thing I learned from there is that you don't need to populate your code email with too many stories, with all your achievements, everything you have achieved in the past, or the ones you are currently like working on. You just need to pick the best ones, right? Just to impress the professor. You don't need to write too many stories. So what I learned was just that, you see, clarity and respect work better than long stories. So keep it short and it should be precise, and make sure it is like it is directing what you really want to, like the message you really want to pass across. It is directing it to the reader. Okay. So the thing is, one more thing about this, these professors, they are always busy. When it comes to reading emails, you should know that you are not the only international students sending code emails to them. We have a lot of competitive students across the world that are also reaching out to the same professor. Okay. So there is no need to send lengthy emails, even though if they try to like, okay, let me just open the email of this particular applicant and just read it. So when they read it and in fact, upon opening it, when they realize that you have this long essay, it would even like discourage the professor from reading it. So you need to keep it short. So when I learned all those things, then I realized I realized some changes in the process of my application and submitting code emails to professors just for them to see who I am. So that's another thing. Then in terms of statement of purpose, that was a little bit challenging for me as well during that time, because my first draft of SOP was just like a biography, more like the SOP, the code email I wrote initially. So because a lot of fantasies in my SOP, it was all about my childhood dreams and what I wanted to achieve. So, whenever you write SOP, you would have to send it out to a reviewer, maybe like a mentor to review for you. I did the same thing. Then the mentor actually told me, guy, you need to refocus, honestly. Make it about your research journey and your goals, not about the whole story of your life. So once I was able to reframe that, then I realized that my application became much stronger. So if you are stuck at some point in time, and you don't really know how to navigate things, it is always better to reach out to people that have better experience, especially in terms of when it comes to SOP. When it comes to SOP, reach out to people that have better experience. They can like guide you on how to tailor your SOP. So I'm still going to talk about all of this later. So the last thing I will say is that resilience is just the key. Resilience is just the key. Several rejections on my way, several acceptances without funding and all of that. Those things were like getting me depressed at that point in time. But I did not let that weigh me down. So I continued applying until I got that 1 year that I needed. So that's just it. You don't have to give up. I know it is kind of like brain tasking, but don't give up. You will surely knock the right door. Even though if you have been knocking the wrong doors since all these days, you will surely knock the right door. So that's just my own personal experience. So let's go into the main business of today. So let me start with this particular aspect of the presentation. Can you guys still hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
okay. Okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
So
we are
navigating
good,
the
sir.
okay. So navigating the US graduate school applications. You see, this particular aspect, it covers a lot of things. Okay. So one thing I usually tell people is that you need to be very careful when it comes to graduate school application. Okay. The first thing here that I listed is research and fit. Research and fit, identify programs, check requirements, look beyond ranking. Look beyond ranking. You see these three things, they are very, very, they are essential. So you need to be very sensitive to this thing. So like the very first thing when it comes to graduate school application is that you need to research the right programs. Research the right programs. Research the right programs. So don't just chase the big names like Harvard is a very big school. So MIT also, because they sound very prestigious, because they are like top schools. Yes, that is where I want to go. That is not how it works when it comes to graduate school journey. You need to know what you really want to do and what the school is offering. Yeah. So instead of you to look at the school name, it's better for you to just look for fits. And before you can look for fits, you need to ask yourself some questions. Which professors are working in this research area that I really care about? Which labs have the facilities that I need? And for you to answer these questions, you need to check the faculty webpage, read a few of their recent research papers, and that is going to show that you are a very serious person and you know what you are really doing. If you are able to do that, then you've done your homework. You would know the school that is best for you to go, not just about the name. What is the essence of going to top schools that are not offering what you are really interested in? Okay, so it's not about the ranking sometimes, it's about what you want to do, and it's about whether the school is offering what you want to do or not. So when it comes to research interest is really a big thing when it comes to graduate school application process. Yeah, I understand you want to leave your country to study abroad. You want to reshape your career. That is fine. You want to achieve your dreams. All these things are good, honestly. But at the same time, you need to keep in mind that you don't want to suffer or struggle too much during your program. Because if you get yourself into the wrong program out of desperation, you will suffer a lot. You will suffer a lot. Because normally, I personally know that by standard, for people to complete their MSc program, I think that happens in just a year or 2 years. And when it comes to PhD takes about 3 to 5 years. But my question is, would you be happy to complete your own PhD in 7 to 8 years because of desperation? That is one question for you. So the answer is no. I know none of you want to be in that kind of situation. None of you want to be in that kind of situation. So my advice again is that you should carefully select research area or program that you are really interested in, not just what is available. Like I said, check the faculty webpage of each of the schools that you are interested in. Read few papers of these professors to understand their research and what they do in their lab before you tailor your application towards the lab's need. So you need to be extremely careful. Don't let desperation force you into what you will eventually regret later. Okay? So it is best for you to do what you are really interested in than just going for what is available. So that is just the main key about research and fits. So for this application requirements, you also need to check the application requirements, what is needed. So I'll cover that in this application materials aspect. So I talked about look beyond the ranking already, okay? Don't let the big name of that big school enter your head. If the school is not offering what you want, okay, look for another school. Not be everybody will go MIT. Not be all of them may come. And not be everybody will go, what's it called? The bottom schools in the US. Not be all of them became poorer in their life. So you need to be very, very careful. So desperation should not push you into what you are not really interested in. So that is it. So let's talk about the application materials. For application materials, basically, we still call them like the basic requirements normally. So one thing is that almost every program will ask you for transcripts. You should know that. They will ask you for letters of recommendation. They will ask you for a resume or CV and a statement of purpose. Okay, those 4 materials, they are like key. Now, other things are GRE and English proficiency tests. So GRE, basically, the standardized tests, and maybe TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo English proficiency tests. So some schools might require that from you, and some schools might not require that from you. Okay, some schools usually waive that, and some schools do not. Especially if you are an international student, you might be required to submit all these things. So my thing is, the fact that some schools waive these test scores and some schools do not, you need to be very careful when selecting schools. If you know that, oh, you do not have these test scores and you are not ready to write any, so it is better to just look at schools that do not require these test scores. Okay, even there are some schools in the US, for example, like my school, they waive GRE sometimes, but when it comes to English proficiency, international students, especially those from Nigeria, they don't need to worry about it because they waive it for Nigerians. They have this list of countries that they consider as English-speaking countries. Okay, so if your country fall to be on that list, then automatically you don't need to stress yourself about TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo because they see your country, like maybe Nigeria, as one of the English-speaking countries. So you need to look at all these things whenever you are trying to check the requirements for admission. So see if they are waiving English test, see if they are waiving GRE, and if you are keen on going to that particular school and you see that GRE is needed and maybe English proficiency, TOEFL or IELTS or Duolingo, if either of this is needed, then you should know that you need to write those tests in order to boost your chance of being admitted in that school. So that's another thing. So we have all of that. So one more thing is you need to start your preparation early, especially in the US. When it comes to US application, I don't think it's only US application process, like graduate school application process, even other countries. You need to start your application early enough, like a year before the deadline. So you need to start gathering your documents, put things together before the deadline. Wherever the test is needed to be taken, make sure you write the test. Write the test early enough if you think you need them. And one thing is, the reason why I say you should write the test early enough is that even if you fail, maybe GRE or TOEFL, you still have ample of time to rewrite the test if they are compulsory for your application. So you still have ample of time to rewrite the test before the application window will be open and before the deadline. So preparing early is very, very important. So start gathering your application materials now, whether you have your transcripts with you now. Student copy of transcript is still what is required for you to apply. It is when you have been admitted that they will request for the official transcript from you. So reach out to your schools, get some of these things ready. And if you need to reach out to some of your professors for letter of recommendation, start informing them now. Okay, so you need all of these things. So one other thing about these application materials, okay, that seems to be very challenging is letter of recommendation. Letter of recommendation can be very hard to get, can be very, very hard to get. So one thing I usually tell undergraduate students is that when you are still in school, okay, for example, if you are still an undergraduate student, try to build that good relationship with your professors, with your lecturers. Know them and let them know you. Let them know your academic prowess. Let them know what you are capable of doing. Okay? Because if you are able to establish that kind of relationship before graduating, it will be easier for you to get letter of recommendation from any of them. But if you fail to build that kind of relationship before graduating, then after school, it can be a little bit difficult for you to get those things from them. Is it the professor that did not really know you well when you were in school that would want to write something meaningful about you? Okay, it can be a bit difficult. So try as much as possible to build that good relationship with them. So that's one thing about letters of recommendation. And another thing is, when it comes to the application window, for this letter of recommendation, don't wait until the last minute. Reach out to professors or supervisors early, people that you think you need to reach out to for letters of recommendation. If they don't know what to write about you, probably maybe you did not build that kind of good relationship with them when you were in school, send your CV to them and share your goals with them. Okay? When they look at those things, they will know what to write for you. And also make sure you remind them, like you send like a gentle reminder to them as the deadline approaches. So that's just one of the best ways to follow up with them. I can understand that letters of recommendation are kind of tough to get, honestly. So it depends on you. It depends on you and the kind of relationship that you have with these professors. For example, I could remember back in my undergrad days, some professors, because they are very busy, you are not the only one they are going to write this letter of recommendation for, okay? So some of them, they are very like, depending on the kind of relationship that you have with them, they will even tell you to go and write it, that you should write it by yourself. When you have written it, then you can send it to them. They will just review. They will just do their add and subtract, what they want to add, what they want to subtract. So that makes it easy for them to just draft something for you. So you are not putting the whole burden on them. So you have done your part, you send it to them, they review. Oh, yeah, I think this is good. They will just do add and subtract. Then you have lessened the burden on them. So try as much as possible to have that good relationship with them. So that's another thing. So that covers the aspect of our letter of recommendation. So for statement of purpose, I'm still going to talk about this later. So, but for your resume or CV, I don't think I have much to say about this resume or CV, because one thing is we have different templates, okay? So we have different templates for academic CV. There are several winning resume or CVs. We can actually like send out to the group later for you guys to use to try to modify your own further. So that's just one of the things about application materials. And one other thing, your application materials, okay? In fact, your application is not just documents, okay? It is your story. It is your story, because each piece, that is your SOP, your CV, your recommendations, should echo the same thing about who you are as a scholar and what you really want to achieve. So they should be like tightly connected. They should be tightly connected. So that's just that. Then to follow up with your application materials during like the application time, like I said, you need like an application tracker. So just a simple spreadsheet like the one here. This is just one sample. So if you have like 10 schools on your list, just list them by using your spreadsheet, the program you want to go for, the faculty of interest, application deadline. Is GRE or TOEFL required? You have to put it there. So documentation status, your SOP, as you are like working towards the submission of your application, whenever you upload any of the, what's it called, the application package required, make sure you are checking them here. Okay, I have done this, I haven't done this. This is the next thing. Keep following up, okay, to keep track of your application progress. So these are some of the headlines that you need for your, what's it called, for your spreadsheet columns, to keep track of what is really going on. So the time management, like I said, start early. Start early enough, like 12 to 15 months ahead. Create an application tracker, school of interest, document status, deadline recommenders, and set reminders. So if you can do this, then you are good to go with time management and application materials. So let me try to say something else regarding these test scores. For test scores, you need to know that the scores really matter, whether it is TOEFL, IELTS, or GRE, right? So if you have researched some schools that you think you want to apply to, make sure you know the test scores, the scores required for the GRE or the TOEFL. For the TOEFL, some will tell you they need just 90. Some will tell you they need just 100 out of 120. For the GRE, some will tell you they need just 310 out of 340. So you need to plan ahead and know how to work towards that. Because if you have anything less than that, fine. If there is time for you to rewrite, quickly rewrite if you think you can pass it and do better, okay? So keep in mind the test scores if it is very, very important to that school. So that is that. Then one more thing here that I would like to emphasize on is the interviews, if applicable. So interview, basically, it comes in like 2 stages. So when you are code mailing professors, you are reaching out to professors for opportunities in their labs. Some of them can schedule interview with you just to know how strong you are. Okay. So you must be prepared to discuss your research interests, ask them smart questions about funding, labs, and their styles. So before you can do this, you must have like read the papers of those professors, like try to familiarize yourself with what they are really doing and how you can contribute to their research lab. So make sure you do this. Do your homework, like due diligence to make sure you get everything said before having any interview with these people. So one more thing is, like I said, you have 2 stages of interviews, right? So the very first one is with you and the advisor, maybe when you are trying to like reach out. Then the second one is during the application, admission review like stage. So when they are reviewing your application package, so the admissions committee can schedule another interview with you just to know what you are really up to. Okay. So, and those things, like combination of these things are actually like they are the determinants of whether you get accepted or rejected. Okay. So you need to be extremely careful about what you would say when it comes to the face of the interview, and you should do extra work, like be extra prepared. Okay, so you can ace those interviews. Okay, make sure you read papers. If you are using any tools to do some simulations or design on your own, make sure you understand them well. So whenever you want to discuss your research, you be able to tell them how these things are interconnected and how they are like working together and all of that. So that is that regarding this. Are you guys following?
Yes.
Hello? Okay.
Yes,
That's
yes.
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So that is all I have regarding this part. So let me go to the before this. Okay, let's talk about, I think this is the next one, scholarship opportunities for graduate students in the US. So for this one, we have like 2 main buckets of scholarships. 2 main buckets of scholarships. So we have the internal scholarships and funding. So I can categorize this as the kind of like scholarships that are directly offered by the university. So for example, many schools offer graduate assistantship. So, and when it comes to graduate assistantship, yeah, GA, so it comes in forms of research assistantship, that is RA, or teaching assistantships. Okay, so one thing that is common to these two is that they often cover your tuition, right? So your tuition is waived and you also get stipend. And apart from that, some departments also offer like a fellowship to top applicants, especially for new incoming students. So if you have a good profile, you can actually apply for fellowship. And usually fellowship is not like free money. You are not actually working. So it's more like free money for you. So just keep in mind, we have like our internal scholarship in form of RA and TA. Then university fellowship as well. Like basically it is merit-based, often for incoming students. And there are some that are not just for incoming students that you can explore when you get into the school. So another one is the external scholarship. Okay. So external scholarship, we can also see them as competitive fellowship as well. So there are several types like that. So when you go online, you can see like, you can just browse online to see different external scholarship that you can explore. So the reason why this scholarship exists is that, for example, if you try to like apply to some schools in the US and you realize that they don't have internal scholarship, right? And from their maybe admissions page or from the website, you realize that they have like external support from some of these external scholarships. So you can just explore these scholarships by applying to that school and trying to leverage this scholarship if it is going to work for you. So I have some examples of those scholarships here. You can check them out and see if they have like, if they are affiliated to some of the schools that you think you can apply to. And if the school, those schools are actually offering the kind of program that you really want to go for. So it's another way. People leverage these external scholarships when they realize that maybe the internal scholarships are kind of competitive for them to get. Okay. So for example, a good example of this external scholarship is MasterCard Foundation. So some people are actually like leveraging on this one in particular to get masters, to get into master's program in the US. So you just need to do your homework. There are several lists of these scholarships. Apart from this, is not the exhaustive list. So you can get many of them out there. So that's just how it works in terms of funding. So know how you can explore these two channels in order for you to get into the school. So, but for the one that we mostly use to survive, which is the RATA, I am going to like expand on them later. Yeah, I'm going to expand on them later. Okay, let me just go straight there. So let me explain what TA, RA, what they basically are. So for the RA, so if you get RA, that is research assistantship, so you'll be working under a professor on a funded project. So, and in that regard, what you get in return is your tuition is waived and you receive monthly stipend for living expenses. So you'll be doing research under a professor for you to get paid. Then when it comes to TA, that is teaching assistantship, it is also similar to the RA, except instead of you to be doing research, you are helping students to, you are helping to teach undergraduate students. You may also be running tutorials, grading assignments for this maybe professor that they assign you to work with. You'll be holding office hours. During office hours, you are just helping students with their homework and their labs and all of that. So the basic connection between RA and TA as forms of what's it called, graduate assistantship, is that they are both competitive. They are both competitive, but they actually serve as the backbone of how international students survive financially in the US. So most of the funding that come to you, they come in form of this RA and TA in the US. So because it's mostly like the responsibility of the department to do that for you. So like I said, university fellowship is just merit-based. They don't require you to do any work. So they are often given to like strong incoming students, especially those with upgrades and those that have exceptional research potentials. Then departmental award, this is just targeted to research fields. So for example, they can tell you that, oh, the Department of Chemistry is giving out like awards to maybe women in STEM and all of that. So if you think you fall in the category of people that can like apply, then it is going to benefit you. So these are just like added advantage that you can actually leverage within the university campus. So then how do you secure these two? So I'm still going to like strategies to secure funding. So the best thing is apply widely. Apply widely. Don't put all your hopes on one scholarship. Okay. Many people get funding in unexpected ways, like being offered an RA position after their first semester. Okay. So try and spread your options, and I believe you surely get into one. So that's just how that works. So let me go to strategies to secure funding, which is this. So the very first thing I mentioned is that you should tailor the mission, tailor your application to the mission of the funding body. So for example, if you realize that, let me explain it in the way of like internal scholarship and external scholarship. Maybe you are looking for RA opportunity in the school, and probably maybe you are just trying to browse the faculty page and you realize that a particular professor just like have just been like offered maybe NSF grants, and the professor is working on maybe renewable energy, and you think that is what you are really interested in. Probably maybe you are also working on renewable energy and you think you can work under that professor. You can reach out to the professor because you know this professor already has fund. You can actually fund you for research assistantship. So then what do you need to do? You need to tailor your application. Fine. You can't see someone who is in need of students that can work with him on renewable energy, but you know you personally, you are doing something different entirely. Okay, how do you want your application to be matched toward what this professor is doing? So if you know you are from that particular research area, that is renewable energy, then you can tailor your application to the mission of that particular funding body, of that particular lab. So that is how it works. Even though for schools, for example, if you are applying to a particular department, check the list of courses they are offering. If you think, okay, this course is very okay for you, then whenever you want to put your application package together, if you are writing your SOP, how do you write your SOP? So you write your SOP in such a way that you will tailor that application towards the mission of what that particular course needs from you. So that is how to do things. So in that case, tailor your application to the mission of the funding body. Also, if it is external scholarship that you are trying to explore, for example, like the Fulbright Foreign Student Scholarship, some of these scholarships, they actually like rely on before you can be selected, they want to see your leadership skill and volunteering skill. Like, have you like done something like maybe you have led a team, you have volunteered, you have shown persistence despite challenges. Those are the things that these scholarships are actually looking for. Okay, so if you can have that in your application package, then you stand a chance to win. So tailor your application to the mission of the funding body. Demonstrate in part how your research contributes to your home country or global challenges. Okay, so from here, like demonstrate in part, they really want to know whether what you are coming for would benefit your own country or it will benefit the global economy as a whole. So you should be able to state that the problem you are coming to solve can actually like help the masses in general. So that's another thing. So this is one more thing. Like I said, highlight leadership, service, and resilience. I think I mentioned that already. Then apply early and widely. Apply early and widely. Don't rely on one source. Don't rely on one source. As you are trying internal scholarships, try external as well. You don't know which one will work for you. So apply early and spread your options. So that is all I have for this particular aspect of my presentation. Let's check the next one. So the next one is code mails, statement of purpose, and orders. So I need to be very fast with this. Yeah. So let's look at code mails, code emails to professors. Like I said, I think I mentioned this briefly earlier, that when it comes to code mailing professors, you need to be very smart. Don't write the whole story of your life into your email because you want to impress the professor, right? The subject line, prospective graduates, MSc or PhD students interested in so lab. Okay, find the professor's lab name. Are you MSc? Are you going for MSc or PhD? Okay, be specific with your subject line. Then the next thing, you just need to write 3 to 4 paragraphs at max. You don't need to write too many stories. So the first paragraph should just be introduction, who you are, current degree, your institution, your research focus. Then the second paragraph should just be the connection, why their research excites you. Mention 1 or 2 papers. Maybe you have read the paper of that particular professor. If the professor is working on, let's say, quantum tomography or something like that, and you think that is what you are really interested in, and you have worked on something like that before, show the connection, why their research excites you, and how you can connect that to some of the papers that they have really worked on. Okay. Then the next thing is your value, skills, experience, and publication. So yeah, maybe you are good at using what's it called, AutoCAD, or maybe computer vision or machine learning tools and some other things like that. Make sure you show how this thing connects to the what's it called, to the research, and how you can actually use them to contribute to the research lab, what they are really doing in that lab. So, and the last thing you need to do is ask, I would love to know if you are accepting students for maybe for 2026 or spring 2027. Okay, so you just have to add all of these things. Add all of these things. Let the professor, like, you need to be very, very like precise. Okay, let your email be very clear to the professor. You don't need to write too many stories. Just the introduction, connection, your value, then ask whatever question you want to ask, and that is just the end of it. So you can attach your CV if you want the professor to have like a full portrait of who you really are, or maybe your, what's it called, your transcripts. Because some of these professors, they really want to know, oh, maybe you have background knowledge regarding this research. If you have taken some courses that could help you in that regard. So they can look through your CV. Maybe the course requires you to have like background knowledge of electromagnetics. They can actually check your grade on your transcript to know, oh, this guy had 90s in the, oh, he has taken like advanced microwave engineering, electromagnetics. He had 90 plus A's and all of that. I mean, so that can even like make the professor to build some interest in you. So, but you don't need to put too many like documents or too many stories there just because you want to impress the professor. Know that these guys are very busy. They are reading their students' emails every day. Like students send emails to them every day, right? They also have like co-researchers that they are also like responding to. They also have like thousands of graduate students sending emails to them, like code mailing them from different parts of the world. You are not the only one. So don't overwhelm the professor with your lengthy email. Keep it short. When they read it, they'll be excited to, oh, this is not too long. They can read and immediately, oh, if they build any interest around you, they'll reach out. But once they open it and they realize that you have written a piece too, who would want to read that? So it can discourage the professor, right? So the thing is, you just need to be professional, be specific, and be respectful. Okay? So another thing is avoid generic messages. Avoid generic messages. Avoid generic messages in the sense that, let me just give you one example. There was a time when I was looking for opportunities. Then what I did then was that I think I was looking for opportunities in labs that are doing embedded systems. So I crafted my SOP, fine. Then I sent that when I wanted to send I crafted my code email. Then I wanted to send it out to professors because I had a list of these professors then that are actually like working on embedded systems. Then I sent it to one. Whenever I want to like send it out, I will change the name because I was sending almost the same thing. But the thing is, I think I did not mention the school name in the email, right? So I was only sending what I already like crafted. But whenever I want to send it, I make sure I change the name of the recipient, which is the professor's name. So I was doing the same thing, and it's got I did not know. I wanted to send to one professor and I forgot to like change the name of that particular professor, like change the name on that email. So I addressed the email was addressed to someone else before. Then I sent it without changing the name to another professor. So that's why I said, even though whenever you are copying, okay, make sure you are very careful. Change whatever thing it is that needs to be changed before sending your email. Try to look at it over and over again before you send it out, even though if you have copied from your previous code emails. So that is that regarding the code mailing. And one thing for code mailing, fine. People are always complaining, I've been sending code emails, I've not been receiving responses. It is normal. Okay, what you need is a spreadsheet, long spreadsheet. Visit the university that you think you want to go to, visit the webpage, the faculty webpage, gather the list of lecturers that are actually doing what you are doing, what you think you are interested in. You can do that across like multiple universities, have the list of these professors, then code mail them. If you can code mail like 5 of them, maybe 5 per day. If you have like 60 list of professors, be doing that. This thing, it requires commitment. You don't just do 2 or 3 and you say you are tired, I'm fed up, I'm not like doing again. Okay? So you need to be very committed, honestly, to this thing. It requires commitment. So if you are sending to 5 professors every day, today 5 professor, tomorrow 5 professor, next tomorrow 5 professor, you already have like 60 professors on your list. Before you would like exhaust the list, you wouldn't even know. So just do that. Then whenever you send it out like that, try to follow up. Try to follow up. If you don't follow up, you might miss some important information. Okay, so try to follow up. Then let me just go to statement of purpose.
Kindly check your chat, sir. I left you a message.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, just a second. Oh, so let me quickly wrap it up. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. So statement of purpose should just be like just introduce yourself, your academic journey, key projects you've done, internship, research, and shape your interest. Research fits, why you think the program is good for you and why you want the faculty, then your future goal, you can attach it to it. So other supporting materials, you have your personal statements. You can read on that maybe to understand the difference between personal statements and statement of purpose. So that is just it, because we don't really have enough time. I'm deeply sorry. So that is all I have to give you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Engineer Sean. That was actually a fantastic session. And we're so sorry to, definitely is well loaded to dish us more tonight, but then because of our time, we are running quite behind schedule. So
Okay.
I believe we'll still get to any question. Please jot down your question, note them down. Once we get to the Q&As, then definitely we are going to take it together. So Engineer Sean, we are going to take the question and answer section together, and then the Q&A will be shared between yourself and the second speaker is on this call tonight. So for those just joining us, let me quickly share a brief detail about our speaker, that's Engineer Sean. So let me quickly do that now. So you can stop sharing your screen from your end, sir, so that we can, I want to share a brief detail about the bio you sent. So I want to do that quickly so that we can move to the next thing that we have here. So Ibrahim is definitely here tonight as well. And in order to have a balanced perspective, so we just have to focus on bringing in someone in the arts and humanities and also bringing in someone in the STEM industry as well. So definitely I'm sure that Ibrahim is set for us tonight. So let me quickly share a brief about the engineer, then I'll share the bio of Ibrahim, and then we can flow into that. So just hold on while I'm still trying to share my screen. All right, there we are. So I will read so that we can move on to the next speaker. So Oluwaseun Adekola is currently a PhD student in electrical and computer engineering, EC at the University of Illinois, Chicago, United States. His research lies at the intersection of hardware and software, creation of sensing devices, and artificial intelligence to develop wearable technologies for real-time biomedical monitoring and patient care. He also had his national diploma in electrical engineering and a bachelor's degree in electronic and computer engineering from the Polytechnic Ibadan and Lagos State University, respectively. So that's Engineer Sean's, that's Engineer Sean's bio, short bio. If you want to reach out to him as well, of course, you can do that. You can connect to him on LinkedIn, Oluwaseun Adekola, definitely, and then you can also send him a personal message as well. So because of our time, we share the bio of Ibrahim Nourini too, so that we can move on because of our time tonight. So this is the bio of Ibrahim Nourini. Ibrahim Nourini is a creative writer, researcher, and literary critic, pursuing a research degree program in English at Louisiana State University. He received his Bachelor of Arts in English Literature from Ahmadu Bello University. His current research interests include disaster, trauma, healing, post-colonialism, and haiku poetry. He doubles as a fellow of the Bill Anderson Fund and RC Medicine University. So, Chance, join me as I welcome Ibrahim Nourini to take the mic, and then to lead us in another round of insightful session tonight. So, Ibrahim, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abidemi, for this wonderful invite, and thank you for the team for all that you do. My name is Ibrahim Nourini, and thank you, Engineer Oluwaseun, for all the insight. I think you said everything, and I'm not sure if there's anything I would like to say, but just to add to what you said, and I'm gonna speak from the perspective of art and humanities, because you've covered the general part of it, and including what everyone needs to know, especially those in sciences. So for those in art, or let me start by asking this, right? Why do you really need to apply for scholarship? I think this is number one question we really need to ask ourselves. Do you really need scholarship? What would this scholarship do for you? I'm asking this because it is one thing to get a scholarship. It is another thing to succeed or to survive, because academic is very tough. Mr. Oluwaseun can actually testify to that. it is easier. The best way to call for depression is to do something you're not interested in or to do something you're not fascinated with, because you're going to face a lot of challenges. So what keeps you going is that interest, is that passion to succeed, or that passion that, yes, I really want this thing and I'm doing this because I really want it. So the first question is, why do you really need a scholarship? And I must tell you, not everyone needs a scholarship. Some people are doing so well, they just want to be the best tech guy in the world, make a lot of money. If that is what you really want, I don't think you need a scholarship. What you really need is to keep working harder, keep working in the best tech companies in the world, and keep making your money. When you have your money, you can always travel wherever you want to go. I have friends in tech. They said they are not going to apply for scholarships. Some of them are working in Portugal, in UK, and several parts of the world. So the first thing is, do you really need scholarship? If your answer is, I want to JAPA, if that is your answer, I think that may not be sufficient enough to say, yes, I want to apply for a PhD program or a master's program in the US or in the UK. So if your question is, yeah, I really need this career advancement, I really need to learn, I really want to be this or that, and I know this scholarship will do this for me, I think that's a good way. You can always JAPA without, getting a PhD or a master's. There are several ways to JAPA. All you need to do is to figure out what works for you, and what best, and what is your best interest, So now let's speak about code emailing for we in the art and humanities space. I'm just going to say this, right? Let me share my own personal stories. I think that is very much interesting. When I was applying for graduate program in the US, I sent code emails because, I had conversations with a lot of my friends and mentors, and they said, oh, you send code emails, it's going to help, and I did. And I will tell you, code email has really helped a lot of people, especially those in STEM. But I sent code emails to so many professors. Interestingly, I got like over 80% responses. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Out of the 80% responses, I think about 5 professors said, yes, we're going to work with you. We really want you to be in our university. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to be. And 3 gave me the assurance that, yes, I'll get into the university. And that's, and those universities include Emory University, University of Emory or Emory University, Washington University of St. Louis, and one other university. So I had the assurance I was going to get into that school. I was like, let me just start packing my bag, I'm just going to get into the US because these professors already read my profile, they already read my CV, they were interested in me, we had conversations. I even sent them one of my papers, one of my essays I wrote, and they were like, oh, this is good, we would like to be in our lab. And they said, oh, tell us if you're going to apply. I did apply and I informed the professor. The professor was like, yeah, good, that makes sense, you're going to get in. And I was like, oh, okay, if I'm going to get in, then let me just apply. So I did apply, and the reality, came in. I didn't get into those schools. And I was really surprised. I was surprised because they gave me their yes, like, yes. As in, not that, yes, I can apply alone, but they said, yes, we would work together, that kind of assurance that, yes, we're going to work together and I'm going to get into that school. So when I didn't get in, I reached out to them and I was like, can you please tell me why I didn't get into the school? So one of the professors told me that, oh, so sorry, I was on sabbatical leave within that period, so I didn't join the admissions committee. I didn't know what happened there. I was like, really? You went on sabbatical leave when you already told me I would get into the school? That was really, funny but sad at the same time. And I reached out to the second professor, and the second professor was like, we don't make the decisions individually. It is the decision of the admissions committee. So they decide on whoever should get into the school. So I don't know what happened, even though I was part of the admissions committee, but it's not just a one-man decision. And I reached out to my mentor and I was like, oh, my mentor, you said I should send code emails. I did send code emails. These code emails did not work out. So what could be happening? And we later figured out that the way it works in art and humanities is quite different from the way it works in the science field. And this is the reason, right? In the science field, a professor can make individual decisions. And this is why. If a professor has a grant, let's say, for example, I'm a professor of computer science, and I was able to get an NSF grant, I can easily make a decision and say, yes, I'm beginning these students because I've evaluated the students and I know that these students will be useful in my own lab. But in the case of art and humanities, it is quite difficult because the admissions committee make decisions. They decide on who should get into the department because in most cases, the department would fund you, not a single professor. And that is why it is quite different and complicated in art and humanities. So in as much as I would encourage you to send code emails, I would also make you note that is not going to work 100%. Of course, it can work and it may not work. I got admissions in schools I did not send code emails to. I didn't even have any relationship with any professors or any students in those schools. I just applied, I paid the application fee, and I put all my hope in God. And I was like, okay, let's see how it happened. And I got admission in those schools, and that was really very, dramatic. So code email is good, but in art and humanities, have it at the back of your mind that doesn't mean that you would get in, even if the professor promises you that yes, you will get in. The admissions committee make decisions 100%. All right, so Engineer Oluwaseun was talking about, the test, transcript and several other things. But let me just say this for those in art and humanities. Well, I don't think you need a GRA to study a course like literature, history, and several other courses in art and humanities. You may not need GRA. But if you're going to write any test, I would encourage you to write TOEFL. However, you may decide not to write TOEFL like me because I said I was not going to write it, and look for schools that would waive those, for you. And also, when selecting schools, you have to be very strategic. There is R1 research, universities, and there is R2. You really need to know what exactly you need. And let me speak about R1 research institutions. They are basically universities that focus heavily on research. Like, they really focus heavily on research. They invest a lot on research. So if you're thinking of R1 university, there is a likely tendency that you will get funding because they have a lot of money to carry out research. But if you're thinking of R2 universities, you may not really get a lot of funding, because of course they do research, but not as, profound and more sophisticated like R1 university. So you may need to know the distinction between the two. All right, so let me talk about recommendation letter, just to add to what Engineer Oluwaseun said, are we on record? Oh, we are. I want to be very careful what I say here so that, I'm not going to discourage you, but I would tell you to follow up with your professors a lot when it comes to recommendation letters. And I'm going to say this because I've had cases or I've seen cases where a professor wrote like 3 to 4 line generic recommendation letters for someone applying for a PhD program. And this is someone that has a good profile. And I was wondering why the person didn't get into the university, and I looked at the recommendation and I was fortunate enough to see the recommendation letter and I was like, there is no way you will get into any university with these things. There is something about recommendation letters. In the US here, they believe so much, in recommendation letters because whatever a professor says, I believe that is the truth about you. So they want to see that detailed, personalized recommendation letter, not a generic template. I remember I walked up to a professor one and I was like, oh, I want to apply for a program. And the professor was like, oh, yeah, don't worry about sending me a draft. I have this draft I have, I'm just going to send it. And I was like, can I see the draft, professor? And professor was like, oh, sure, and I was like, I know this is good, but I would like you to use this one because I think this one is, more personalized. And professor did agree. So what I'm saying here is this, right? Some lecturers are very good at writing recommendation letters, and some are not so good at it. And that's why you really need to work with them, as Engineer Oluwaseun said. Work with them very well to ensure that they are writing something meaningful. Ensure that they are not writing a generic recommendation letter. What a generic recommendation letter means is that a recommendation letter that can be used for several students, that will not help you. So you need to ensure that they are writing something specific about you, something that aligns with who you are. Let's say, for example, now you are an editor of Creative Writers Club, let them mention it because I remember one of my professors included it in my recommendation letter. The professor said, oh, Ibrahim, was the editor of Creative Writers Club and he, organized weekly workshops for more than for more than, let's say, 100 young writers in the university. This club has produced top writers in Nigeria and in Africa, which include, that kind of personalized recommendation letter makes a lot of sense. What that tells the admissions committee is that, yeah, this person is doing so well, extracurricular activity-wise. So think about what you've done personally. So what you can do is to list out all your achievements, list out something fascinating about you, something that you would want the admissions committee to take notes. And you can then send all those things to your professor and say, okay, these are the things I did when I was in school. I think you can always look at this and see if this is going to work. So just to answer this question, R1 and R2 university, right? So there is R1, there is R2. There are universities that are not classified as R1 and R2. They are basically teaching focused university. So R1 and R2 are basically, in the US. Yes. All right, so ensure that the recommendation letter is quite detailed, it's quite personal, it speaks about you personally, not just any other person. It's not just to say, okay, he's a very good person, it will not work. What are things you've done? Like, you can list all those things. Okay, let's for example now, you served as the president of your departmental association. This is something you can actually include in your, or this is something you can actually tell your professor to write about, like, oh, you served as this. For example, if you used to come to class early and you ask questions a lot, let the professors mention something like that. Remember, a professor of mine said that, like, oh, Ibrahim would always attend undergraduate and even postgraduate seminars and ask questions like, and engage, including me and other faculty, in several intellectual conversations. Now, these are points that would make the committee know that, yeah, this student is not just smart, but it's also prepared for graduate school. So, and also I would encourage you to ensure that you reach out to, like, build relationship, as Engineer Oluwaseun said, build relationship with your professors. You can only suggest points or even give them a draft if you have been able to build a close relationship with your professors. If you're a graduate and you realize you haven't built that close relationship with your professor, start looking for ways to do that now. You may just call them once in a while and say, okay, professor, and even go to their office. I think it's always been very much good. One of the things I did when I was in undergrad was that I built relationship with not just my professor, but also the members of the Senate. And this is what I used to do. Like, I would just wake up one day and I would walk into the Senate and just walk into any office and say, oh, good morning, ma. I didn't see you last week. I was here last week. I just wanted to say hello. And she was going to say, oh, well done. How are you doing, my son? That was how I built a relationship with so many of the Senate members, right? So when I graduated and I needed a letter from the Senate, I asked one of my juniors to go to one office and ask, ask of one official there. So when he got there and he mentioned my name, what the person said was that, oh, I know him. He is my son. I'm going to give you this letter. And immediately they gave the person the letter. I remember there was one day I went to the Senate, the 7th floor. I wanted to even go to the VC's office. The intention was just to, declare my appearance, and I went there and I was like, hello, good morning. How you doing? How is work? I'm just saying hello to you. And sometimes I would just walk up to the office and just say, okay, I bought this credits for you if you don't mind. And they would take it, I deliberately did those things because I knew where I was going to. I just wanted to have that close relationship with them, and I was able to, and those things really helped. There were moments where I would just call somebody and they would tell me, oh, I know this person, I'm just going to get this thing done. That is very much important. Building relationship is key in whatever we do. It's not just in our university, but in everything that we do in our lives, right? Because you never can tell who's going to help you to get your next job. It may be someone you've met before or someone you've known in one way or the other, and that's why it's always good to build relationship. All right, so CV, I think you need an academic CV. So that is very much important. So what I would recommend is go online and look for academic CVs. And I think I really need to say this, right? There's a difference between US academic CVs and the academic CV in Nigeria. The academic CV in Nigeria would have, your date of birth, your state of origin, your local government, and every other things. You don't need all those things, when it comes to. So, an academic CV that is well suited for a PhD program. So you may need to cross-check and ensure that the draft you have is not a Nigerian-based format, but a US-based format, which is very much key. And I would say this, right? I know that we are trained to write in British English. I would encourage us to write in American English when we're applying for graduate school, because there are some words that we say in British, or the way we use language in British English, and those words are quite different from the way the Americans would see those things, So it would be nice that you use, in terms of spelling, in terms of, all the other things. I would really encourage you to write in American English, but this is not compulsory, but this is just something I would really encourage. Now, one important thing I would say is the writing sample. This is something that we need if you want to apply for any program, any non-STEM related programs, especially in art and humanities. You need a writing sample, and the writing sample is always between 15 to 25 pages. So this is more like a paper that you've written that speaks about a particular topic. So what they're interested in, why they really want to see that writing sample is because They want to see how well you are good at carrying out a research project, like how well you can write a good paper. Because if you're not so good at writing, you cannot succeed in any university in the US. You need to have that great research, skill to succeed in US universities. So the writing sample is very much important. But what I advise is don't submit any random writing sample. For example, if your research interest or what you are telling the university you want to study is related to gender and inequality, I would really suggest that you write a writing sample that is within that space. It may not be on the exact thing you really want to do, but something close. So that gives them an idea that yes, you really know what you are doing and you have the skill and the potential to actually do a good job. Now, this is a good question. I know someone may ask me in this house, what if you don't have a good paper? What if you don't even have any paper and you don't want to apply? So what you can do is to, get a soft copy of your undergraduate project. You remove some chapters. There's a way you can arrange some of your undergraduate projects. Remove some chapters and just mix some things up. Like you're going to use your background of the study, of course, then the analytical part of the work and conclusion. Then you can then merge all those things. There is a way you can actually do it. You can have more. I'm not sure if I will be able to explain all the processes here, but there's a way you can go about it, and you can, get at least a paper from your undergraduate project, and then you can use that to submit. So, but if you think your undergraduate project is not quality enough, I think you may need to write one. I did write several essays when I was applying for graduate school because I just wanted the best, and I was able to use like two. I think that's just all I have with me, but I'm just going to leave it open in case if anyone asks me questions. I think we can always, answer any gray areas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful and insightful session, Ibrahim. Yeah, I'm sure that the participant as well gained a lot. Yes, gained a lot. Thank you so much as well. So, scholars, champs, we are now in the question and answer session. So, if you have any question, you can unmute yourself and speak. And if you're in distracting background, you can just leave your question. Then the questions will definitely be responded to. So I still believe that we have engineer Shion here on the loop. Yes, we have engineer Shion on the loop in case question is directed to engineer Shion. So, champs, here we go. We are in the question and answer session. So please just ask your question now. Okay, while people what folks are okay, all right then. So please go ahead with your question.
Good evening. I don't know if anybody else is speaking. Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening. I would want to appreciate Engineer Oluwaseun and Mr. Ibrahim for the insightful session. They were really power-packed. I have gained a lot. Thank you so much for the sessions. And then I would like to start by asking that my first question goes to Engineer Sean. You mentioned that the code mail should be short. I understand that you mentioned what each code mail or the code mail should carry. Like he explained the introductory part and every other thing that has to do with the research interest and all. I would like to ask that how short should the code mail be? Like, take for example, if you could share with us a template, something that we could, read through and then would work on and personalize ours too. So the second is I would like to ask about the review of papers. Review of papers because I know I've done quite a number and then I did not really get a positive response from I didn't get positive responses rather from the PIs that I sent it to at that time. So I wanted to ask that is it not going to be like a waste of time trying to review different papers from professors that they have not even showed interest in you? At what point do you think we should start reviewing papers before at the point where you're sending code mails, or it is after they have responded to you, or probably after they have invited you for an interview or something? So the third one, the external scholarship, you mentioned that the other external scholarship, take for example the MasterCard. I know I've worked around that kind of scholarship before, but I don't really know how it works. Maybe you could share more light on it. And the fourth one is we've been receiving news about funds in the US that most schools do not take in students again. And I believe that is in the US. Probably could like share with us if these news are correct and how complete it is. Probably you could just help us, talk more about the funds. Most of us are getting discouraged about sending applying for scholarship in the US or even sending food news to PIs in the US. Thank you. I think that's all from my end. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, before Engineer Shen attends to those questions, please, I would just want to introduce this particular pattern when asking our questions. Let's just say our name and then our area of research interest, yes, so that the responder will definitely be able to tailor accurately that part to understand your perspective and where you're coming from, then be able to offer tailor-made recommendation and answers based on your questions, please. So just tell us your name and then your research interest. So Titi, I wouldn't even know whether you want to do that now. Just tell us your name. I know that I've mentioned your name, right? So but just tell us your area of research interest so that they will be able to understand perfectly the angle you're coming from. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bidemi. Adebayo Titilayo, and I have my research interest is basically like a link between biological sciences and public health. I mean public health psychology. I don't know if that answers the question.
All right, great. So Engineer Shen, over to you. 4 questions for you. All right.
Okay, Titi, thank you very much for those questions. Well, you asked 4 questions, right? So I think I missed out on one. So I am still going to ask about the question later. So let me address these 3 first. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, we can hear you, Engineer.
Okay. So I think the very first question was regarding like code email precision, right? How short or how long it should be, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
my thing is when you like, I gave you like 4 different steps to follow, like the introduction, the connection, the connection, then you also have like the question to ask and also the value you want to add, right? So when you write all those things, you personally, when you are crafting your code email, when you are doing too much, you would know. So I can't say there is this particular template. I think I shared one before. So that was very short. Okay, so it was more like a way to introduce yourself. But the thing is, if you can connect those 4 steps together, right, you would know whether you have done enough or you are doing too much. When you are writing too much, you would know that, no, I'm doing too much. You understand what I'm saying? You would know that
Yes,
you are
sir.
doing too much. So that is just it. There is no particular template for that, but keep it short and precise, okay? You should be able to convey whatever thing it is that you have that you really want to convey, okay? So that is just it. When you are doing too much, you would know. You would know definitely that you are doing too much. So that is all I have to say about that. Then I think another question I grabbed was about paper review, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in terms of paper review, what I would say, like I said, fine, I know you can't read uh, all the papers that a particular professor had already written in the past. So the thing is, you can't know everything they have really worked on in the past. But one thing is, you know what you really want. How what you really want to do, right? Connect with what this professor has done is your main goal. Okay, just 2 papers. If you can like just like grab 2 papers that are really like close to what you think you know how to do well, that's just even enough. So regarding maybe after they have responded to you, or I think before you can even try to reach out to a particular professor, you need to see what they are really working on. So you can't just like look at their profile, fine, this man is working on embedded system, he's doing this, he's doing that. Then you now go to the, what's it called? Then you now, okay, the fact that the professor is working on embedded system. What part of the embedded system is this particular professor working on? Right? Is it just error correction? Right? Or is he like more focused on the communication aspect of embedded system? Do you really understand what I'm saying? So you don't really need to do too much. If it is that error correction aspect that you are really interested in, okay, let the professor know that this is the specific aspect that I'm interested in. You don't need to generalize. These people, they have like vast knowledge that they are doing a lot of things. It is only which aspect of it that you think is more related to you that you should focus on. So like I said, I can't tell you that it is when they reach out to you that you should start reading papers or blah, blah, blah. But before you can build that connection, you must have that idea of what the professor is working on and how it relates to you. So you just have to be prepared at all times. So that's all I can say in that regard. Then I think one other question is how to secure scholarships. There is no one way to this thing. Fine, you said you have been doing this, you have been doing that, and nothing has been working. Like I said, the goal is never give up. That's just all I can say. Never give up, spread your options, then keep shooting. That's just it. Keep knocking different doors, keep knocking like this, knock different doors. Eventually, one will be open to you. And that is just going to be the end of it. So I think there is one more question that I actually missed. Maybe if you can repeat that.
I think it's that most schools in the US no longer give funding, so people are skeptical about applying.
Yeah, the fact that they are skeptical about applying, people are still getting offers, fully funded offers, right? Regardless, no matter how it is, you just need to keep applying. I could remember like last year, stroke this year, like earlier this year, people were like, no. I think some people actually like stopped applying and some like they kept applying. And at the end of the day, they still got the offer. So the goal is not to, no matter what is happening, you don't need to give up. You just have to keep applying. So if you think US is kind of difficult for you, like it's becoming very hard to get into, there are several other scholarships that you can explore, and there are several other countries that you can look at. People are going to Italy, they are going to, what's it called? They are going to Belgium, they are going to different countries by exploring other scholarship options. Okay. So if US is becoming kind of difficult, you can try elsewhere. But if it is still US that you want, my sister, don't give up. That is the goal in the US. And US has a lot of opportunities. I need to be sincere with you. So because, over like 4,000 universities in the US. So it depends on how well you can spread the options. So I had a friend who actually applied to 30 schools last year. She used to be an high scholar. She applied to 30 schools and she got into 7, like fully funded offers to 7 schools. So the goal is just don't give up, keep applying. And if it is US, spread your options, like apply to as many schools as possible. Apply to as many schools as possible. You can't have that wide range of applications and you say at the end of the day, nothing positive is going to come out of it. It's not possible. Just be positive and keep applying. That is the goal in the US. If you really want US, just keep shooting. Just keep shooting. There is no one way to do this thing, honestly. You just have to keep shooting. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Engineer Sean, for those wonderful contributions. Thank you so much for that. Now we have another question here from Dalia Saif. I don't know whether I get our pronunciations correctly. And the question is, lack of publication jeopardize the chance of getting accepted? Yes, does lack of publication jeopardize the chance of getting accepted? So I will throw this question at Ibrahim. Ibrahim, please. I
Okay.
wouldn't know whether you would ever.
All right, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Engineer Oluwaseun. I just wanted to add something, to what Mr. Oluwaseun said, don't give up. That's number one thing. Now, number two, Cicely, you said you've been applying for several scholarships. Maybe one of the things you really need to do is to reflect, take a moment to send your application packet to an expert and let them go through what you're doing. So they can easily tell you whether the fault is from you or maybe the fault is not from you. You just need to keep doing the right thing. I'm saying this because there are several scholarships and there are several ways to get into several scholarships. For example, if you're applying for MasterCard, one of the things you're going to need to lay emphasis on is that you are from a low or a disadvantaged, background or low income background. So you really need to be very clear with that because MasterCard would not give you scholarship because you're the best or the smart person in the world, but they would give you scholarship because you have potentials, you are good, and you faced a lot of obstacles. So despite all those obstacles, you were able to succeed. So if you're applying for Erasmus Mundus scholarship, what they're looking out for is how great you are. Each scholarship has their own objective. If you're applying for Chevening, Chevening is looking for leadership and impact. They don't mind your grade, even if you have top class, you can easily get into Chevening. They are more concerned about leadership, impact, and several other things, networking, and several other things. So you may need to take a moment to reflect on the application packets that you've submitted to all those scholarships and ask yourself, have I been able to, do I meet the expectations of these scholarship bodies? And this is something you can also do. If the fault is on from you, of course, you just need to keep applying. Don't relent, as Engineer Oluwaseun said. Now, the question of, does lack of publication jeopardize the chance of getting admission? Okay, now this is the point. Let me speak from my own personal experience. I have said this countless times with numbers, but I'm going to say this, right? I didn't graduate with first class. I'm not, Abidemi, I'm not, several other people that graduated with first class. I didn't graduate with first class. I graduated with 2-1. And interestingly, I didn't graduate with the best 2-1s. I graduated with 3.88. So because I graduated with 3.88, so many people asked me, it's going to be difficult to get scholarship. Even my brother said that. But as God will have it, I've got so many scholarships, including MasterCard and several other scholarships with my results. Now, this is the point, right? Your result is just one out of the numerous things they look out for. They also look out for several other things. For example, now, I have a lot of publications. Before I applied for a PhD program in the US, I already published more than 15 book reviews online. I already had like 5 different papers published. I already presented papers in at least 6 different conferences. That was before even coming to the US. So I had all those publication experiences. I've worked with top literary organizations in the world, even in the US here. I was able to talk about those organizations like, I've worked for Barham House of San Francisco. I've worked for Open Journal of Art and Letters in California and several other parts. I was able to talk about those things. Now, this is the point, right? If there's a deficiency in somewhere in your application, you really need to look for ways to ensure that other parts are very strong. In my own case, publication was actually the strongest point because that was the way I could convince them that, yes, I'm actually good. Ignore that I didn't have a first class. Now, this is the point, right? I would say it is good to have publications. The reason is because you're not the only one applying in the world, especially if you're applying for a course like literature or some other courses like that. Even people with first class have publications. So the question is, what would you think would make you stand out? So having publication increases your chances. Even if you don't have publications, have conference papers. Go to conferences and present papers. There is a difference between attending conferences and presenting papers in those conferences. So if you're presenting papers in those conferences, it shows that you're very committed to academics and you're making contribution in your own field. So I would say it is important to have publications because that increases your chances. It gives you edge, especially if there's any deficiency in any parts of your application.
All right, thank you so much, Ibrahim, for that response too. So we have another question here, and I want Engineer Oluwaseun to answer this question. Okay, before that, please, if you have any question, can you just signify here so that because of our time is fast spent, a minute behind the closing schedule. This meeting ought to end by 8:30, but I just want to plead with us to kindly exercise a little patience, at least for 5 to 10 minutes in order to have this thing done. So the next question here is, what are the necessary documents advisable to attach to CodeEmail? So I would direct this to Engineer Oluwaseun. So over to you.
Okay, regarding this, my own personal way of doing it is that whenever I send out CodeEmail like that, I usually attach my CV. I usually attach my CV to it and a copy of my transcript. So the reason why I do those two things, first, let me start from the aspect of my CV, because I don't need to attach link to my papers, to my research papers, though I would mention it in the CodeEmail, and I will let the professor know that I have the links to those papers on my CV. Because usually on my CV, I have a section for my research publication. where I attach my, what's it called? Research profile, for example, like the Google Scholar profile and the ResearchGate profile. They are on my CV, okay? So when the professor is reading my CV, he would be able to click on those links to see my research profile and see what I have worked on. So I do not need to attach like those papers, like the PDF format of those papers to my code email, because I don't want to like overpopulate the code email that I'm sending out. So my CV has the links to my research profile. It has everything about my grades. So I don't need to attach my, what's it called? My certificate or any other thing like that. Just my transcript. The reason why I would attach my transcript alongside with the CV to the email is that whenever the professor is reading my code email, I believe after reading everything on my CV, fine, my grade is on my CV, everything is attached there. The professor can also take a look at the transcript to see my strengths in some of the courses that are really required for that particular research area. So for example, like I said, if you are going for, let me say, a course that is more related to, or a research area that is more focused on, let me say, antennas and electromagnetics or microwaves. Okay, so I believe these professors will want to see like your prior knowledge, like what do you really understand about these things? Fine, they have not even interviewed you to know what you know about these things, but your transcripts, your grade in those courses can actually speak for you. When they look at those at your transcripts and they see those courses, for example, electromagnetics, maybe you spanked like 90 A plus. I said it initially, the microwave theory, okay, that is already giving them the impression that you have background in those areas, and it would really help you during the course of the research. Okay, so to me, for me personally, I usually attach my CV because my CV is almost everything about me. So it covers my what's it called? My overall GPA, my research area, my work experience, and all of that. Then my transcript goes in line into the email as well, just for the professor to see my strengths in some of the courses I had already taken during my undergrad. So that is just all I have regarding that.
All right, thank you so much for that, Engineer Oluwaseun. We have another question here too, and the question says, okay, how can I select schools that are not very competitive? How would I know the acceptance rate for a school? So I'll throw that at Ibrahim. Ibrahim, please, over to you.
Okay, good question. How can you know a school that's not competitive? Oh, let me start with this, right? I think it is not about the school only, but also the program. For example, now there are some programs that are very competitive in some schools, and there are some programs that are not competitive in some schools. For example, now, my school, if you check the Google ranking, it's not like top 10 or top 20 or top even 100, right? But when it comes to my field, literature, if you want to apply to my school, it's very difficult to get into the literary field in my school. You need to be outstanding. You just need to have that great experience. And the reason is because my school is actually more like there is a lot of fundings on for literary experts, and we have most of the experts, in my department. So like, and because of that, so many people applied, like, so many people want to get into our schools. So what I would advise that you do is that there are some websites you can actually go to, the Grad Cafe. So the Grad Cafe is one. Go to that website, click your include the course, the PhD program, and do search. You're going to see histories of what people have been saying about the school, and so many people have got into that school. For example, if you check University of Alabama, and you notice that, in my course, like so many people said they got into that school, that means the school is less competitive. That doesn't mean it's less competitive, but that's just one hint to tell you that yes, you can apply. If you do a good job, you can easily get into that school. So we have some Ivy League schools. Those Ivy League schools, they are automatically competitive, irrespective of the course you really want to apply. For example, now Harvard, Yale, Stanford, several other. It doesn't mean you cannot get into Ivy League schools. I don't discourage people from applying, but what I would say is this: if you are thinking of Ivy League schools, also think about other schools that are not Ivy League, so I can balance the equation. I did apply to Yale, I did apply to Harvard, I didn't get into any of those two schools, but I was able to get admission in other schools too. So that's one. Two, you can as well check the enrollment rate, or there's something you can check. So if you go online, the acceptance rate rather. So for example, now if you go online on Google and just check the acceptance rate for my school, you're going to see something like 67%. So now that's what that tells you again is that, of course, the acceptance rate is mostly for undergraduate students, but what that tells you is that they admit a lot of students. That means there's a high chances of getting into that school. Or like a school whereby its acceptance rate is 5%. So these are things you may really need to look into. So another school again is to ask yourself, what is the rank of this university in this particular state? So that also gives you some information. For example, now Emory University, Emory is highly competitive. So when you look at the rank of Emory, in Georgia, Emory is like number 1. So to get into Emory, you're going to do a lot of work. It's going to be a very tough work to get into Emory, because it's like the top university in that state. That doesn't mean you cannot get into that school. Of course, it's going to be very tough. Washington University of St. Louis is the top university in St. Louis. Getting into that kind of university is going to be very tough. So the University of California also, these are top universities, right? So you may need to look at, there are several metrics. It's not just a one-way thing to say, okay, this is what you're going to need to do to say this is this or that, but they are just a lot of metrics. I don't know if what I've said really helped.
All right, thank you so much for that, Ibrahim. So we have another question here for you.
Okay.
And the question is, this is directed to Ibrahim. My research interest is rhetoric, composition, and creative writing. Does most school in the USA give funding for this research field? Now, over to you, Ibrahim. And then there's another one also for you, Ibrahim. The person says, please, Dr. Ibrahim, I'd like to connect with you after this section. I need to ask some personal questions and need you to guide me as well. So you can just take the two together. I believe that these are the last set of questions that we have. Thank you.
All right, so let me speak about connecting with me. I'm more than happy to connect with everyone. I really enjoy networking, and you can always send me a message on LinkedIn and I can tell you that we'll respond. Of course, I want to go on break. I decided to come back. I was already on break. I deactivated my all social media platforms. Well, I came back because there is a need. Abidemi reached out to me and I was like, well, I'm just going to come back and I may probably go on break again. I'm just going to be available via email. And the reason is I want to focus heavily on my research, it's just due to commitments anyway. So, but you can always send me an email, let's connect, and I can give you my email. Or connect via LinkedIn, I can give you my email, after that. So, yeah, for questions on research, rhetoric, compositions, and creative writing, right? Are there fundings for this field? So let me say this, right? The way it works again in non-STEM is quite different from the way it works in STEM. In non-STEM, the department decides your funding. So you're going to be more of RA or TA, and it does not necessarily relate to what you really want to study. And I will tell you this, right? More like if you want to apply for a PhD program in non-STEM, you have 90% assurance that you will get a fully funded offer if you get the admission. So you may not need to worry about funding. You may not even need to worry about what you really want to do, or maybe your course, or maybe the area of specialization. If you want to work on gender or rhetoric or even disaster or post-colonialism or the like, it does not necessarily matter. What matters is you get into the system. The department decides the kind of funding they will give you, whether research or TA. So I think that is settled. So although people said, oh, there is no longer funding in this period of time, but I think that non-STEM scholars are not really suffering from that, because if they decide not to fund non-STEM, for example, now I am a TA. So if they decide not to fund any TAs again in my department, that means my department needs to employ a lot of people to do the job. And by employing a lot of people to do the job, that means they're going to pay more. So it's better to retain us, to have someone like us to do the job rather than employing someone to do the job, So I think that is settled. So don't worry about funding. If you want to apply, if you want to get into whether a composition or creative writing, you will surely get a funding. I can tell you categorically that you have 90% assurance that the department will look for ways to fund you. So what you need to do is to get into the system. And I will tell you, there are a lot of schools that do rhetoric and composition and creative writing in the US. So if you're thinking of creative writing, think about MFA, Masters of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And that is where most of the fundings are. Don't let me say all, more than 80% of MFA programs are fully funded, more than 80%, you know. So rhetoric and composition, of course, if you want to do that, yes. There are schools that specialize in rhetoric and composition. You can check University of North Dakota or Dakota State University. They focus heavily on rhetoric and composition. In fact, most of their professors do rhetoric and composition. You can also check Ball State University. These are schools that focus heavily on rhetoric and composition. I don't know if that helps. I think I've answered.
Yeah. Yes, you have. Thank you so much for that too. Thank you so much. I believe we're to the end of this particular program today for the graduate school webinar series of the Rising Stars Initiative. However, before we go, I just want us to keep this theme. The questions is actually directed to, it's more or less not really a question, but then I also want your inputs towards this particular thing. You know, Ibrahim mentioned the fact that it was networking and creating a pathway for himself during his undergrad time. But then how can graduate students, yes, you've left school and all that, how can they also create or foster seamless collaboration and connection with their lecturers or their previous lecturers in order to at least get a strong letter of recommendation? Because I have a friend there, I think in 2023, after leaving service here, I have a friend, he applied to MasterCard scholarship, and it's actually a funny experience actually. So he sent a mail to one of our faculty members, one of the professors in our school and all that, and then the professor wrote, "He's a very good boy, please consider him for this scholarship." That's so. So he said that. So when he said that to me, I was like, bro, you are going nowhere. So I just want you to know that, okay, so many of us are actually graduate students. We've left the university and all that. So how can we foster, in case you do not, during our course of studies as undergrad, we did not focus on building a seamless network or collaboration with our faculty members, our professors and all that. How can we do that as now that we have graduated from school? So the question is actually directed towards Engineer Oluwaseun and then Ibrahim too, so that we can take that finally for tonight. Thank you.
As for me, I'll say this question is a little bit tough, but I need to answer it in a way that I think I understand it. So my thing, I would just like tell that person in need of this to just like try to go back to the school and see these people physically, then talk to them. Because I don't think any kind of virtual interaction would really bring something meaningful like that. And also, when we are trying to do something like this, okay, let's say you didn't build that connection when you were in school, but after school, you are trying to rebuild the connection. You also need to be very careful, know who to reach out to. Maybe you already had some like counter with some professors when you were an undergraduate student, and after graduating, you feel like, oh, I think I need their help now. Let me reach out to them. I need to share this particular experience of a friend of mine. This same thing actually happened to her. So when she started applying and she needed letters of recommendation, she didn't build that good connection with like this relationship with the professors back in undergraduate school. So when she started applying for what's it called, opportunities abroad, then she had to reach out to some of those professors. Meanwhile, she already had one misunderstanding with one of the professors actually, but she thought at least, that one is gone now. We shouldn't be fighting forever. Let me just reach out to him for my letter of recommendation. So she chose two professors and that particular professor, like that particular lecturer, so making three. When they wrote the recommendation letters for her, she actually gained admission to that school. So after getting to school, I think, luckily for her, there was a day, I don't really know what actually happened. She got to see a printed application package in the department. Then she started reading through the recommendation letters that these people actually like wrote for her. So she read for the first professor, she read for the second professor. Then the professor she had an issue with when she was in school, then the man actually wrote rubbish. She actually, like, she finished the lady. She finished the lady. The lady read, when the lady read it, like, she was like, oh my God. So it was only like the two other recommendation letters that actually got the lady into that institution. So that's what I'm trying to say is that when you are reaching out, try to be very careful. If you don't get contact with one professor, I beg, not go near them. Some people are just wicked. They are naturally wicked. In fact, they are not even ready to forgive you for the rest of your life. So you need to be extremely careful. But if you need to reach out to professors, I would say maybe you didn't build that kind of good relationship with them when you were in school. Please go to that school and meet with them physically. I beg, transport fare not too much. Now you want better your life. So just go and do what is necessary. Talk to them. If you can talk to 5 of them, let them know what you are really pursuing, and you will really appreciate it if they can help you. So if you can do that, I think that solves most of these problems. But if you already have an issue with any of them, I beg, no go near them. I beg. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Oluwaseun. Ibrahim, over to you.
All right, as Engineer Oluwaseun said, that was a very tough question, but the best solution has been provided by Engineer Oluwaseun. Go back to your school and build a relationship. Even if you have that good relationship with them and you think you're very close to your school, go to your school and make that physical appearance again so that they will remember you, so that they can actually see you. You can even work with them when they are writing their recommendation letter. You can even tell them, oh, should I help you to do this? So do you have anybody that can help you update your computer or something? These are things you really need to do, because if you don't do all those things, you will not get in. Because I was very close to my school, I served in Castina. So when I was applying, I visited my school several times with members. And I met with some of my professors. There was even one time I needed a recommendation letter urgently. And the professors I used to use, were not around. So I walked into one of those professors and I was like, oh, I need the recommendation letter. Can you help me? He was like, okay, I can help you. I was like, he said, oh, I'm just going to give you the draft. I was like, I already have a draft. I already have something I think can easily talk about, not really a draft per se, And he looked into that thing and I was like, okay, this thing makes sense. Now, the point is this, right? I built a good relationship with them, but I wasn't around. So when I went there physically, it changed a lot of things. So I got to know that, okay, so most of them usually use draft, until I began to tell them that, okay, list some of the things I've done in school and all those things. So you may also need to be very careful, as Engineer Oluwaseun said. So the tips I have, number one, use your junior lecturer. I think some of the junior lecturers are much approachable. So use the junior lecturers, right? You can easily talk to them and say, okay, I'm applying for scholarship. Maybe the newly employed lecturers. I'm applying for scholarship. I need your help. If you can do this for me, that would be nice. That would work. So there's a strategy I do for people. And I would really encourage that, you speak with somebody, you also employ that strategy. I know we all know this, like, it is somebody that we know that also knows somebody that can help somebody. Now, this is the logic, right? I have a good relationship with my professors, right? Some of my juniors call me, like Ibrahim, I want to apply for commendation letters. I don't know who to talk to. And I'm going to say, okay, no worry. I will speak with Professor this, and he would do that for you. I will speak with this person. So what I do is I call them, I greet them. I'm like, okay, so I want you to help this person. Like, he's a student. He needs recommendation letters. How would you help? And so like, oh, Ibrahim, come. No, this is the point, right? They have great respect for me. So because of that respect, they hardly say no to my request. They're always like, Ibrahim said this. Let me just say yes, even though, I don't feel comfortable to do that. And that has really helped. So one of the things you can do is to ask yourself, who do you think has a good relationship with most of your professors? If you've been able to identify one or two, go and meet the person and tell the person, I want to apply for this. Can you help me speak with this professor? Can you convince this professor, let them know that I was a good student, I did that and that. So let them know that I have things I can mention, that they can use in the recommendation letter. So that's one of the things you can also do. And also, you necessarily don't need to use professors in your department. You can use a professor in a department close to yours. For example, now you want to apply for a PhD program in literature, and you think that there is a language professor that can help you. you don't need to meet that PhD professor, or you don't need to meet a professor in that literature department. You can go to the language section, and that would help. So you want to apply for a PhD program in electrical engineering, and you feel like, oh, I know a professor in mechanical engineering that can help, you can also use that professor. This is something you can do. So one of the things I would also say is give them gifts. So one of the things that we underrate a lot is gifts. We may think like gifts, of course, they can buy these things. Of course, they can afford these things. Yes, but people appreciate gifts. The reason is because how many people even remember them? How many people give them gifts? So when you give them gifts, it's a way to build that good relationship. They know that, okay, this guy is always there for me. This guy gives me something. Don't give them with the intention that, yes, you want them to do a favor for you in return, but you're doing that because it's more like an appreciation, like, oh, I'm appreciating you for this. Oh, I just want to thank you for this. For example, one of my professors retired, and I'm like, what can I do for this professor? And I called him. I was like, how are you surviving? And he was like, okay, this and that. And I'm like, I don't need the professor for anything. What I did was I sent the professor, money, and I was like, okay, this is more like a retirement gift. And he was like, no, I don't need this. No, I don't need this. I was like, no, I know you don't need it. I'm just saying, appreciating you for all that you've done, and this is just a good service. So when I did that, few years after that time, I needed him to do something for me. And I'm like, I want to speak with a nominee of Nobel Prize, in literature. And I was like, it is not possible for me to reach this woman. I need to speak with this professor if he would help me. And I reached out to the professor, and the professor was like, oh, I'm just going to do that for you. So now this is what, and the professor did that because he was like, oh, this guy's always been there for me. This guy, values me, he trusts me, he loves me. So gift goes a long way, And another time I needed him to help me write a recommendation letter for somebody in our department who wants to study in the UK, and he doesn't know anybody. Like, is a very quiet person, when we're in school. And I was like, don't worry, I'm just going to talk to this professor to help you. And I called him. I want you to help this person. Like, he used to be a good student. So do you remember the guy that used to sit, beside me then? He was like, oh, it was like, oh, I'm not sure I can remember, but that's fine. Who is he? Tell me more. And I was like, this is who he is. And he was like, okay, no problem. I will do that for you. So these are things you're going to need to do. And also go to conferences. Even though you're not going to present papers, just go to conferences and network. If you go to conferences and network, you might probably just build a good relationship with some professors or some academic scholars in those conferences. So by building relationships, let me tell you, academic is more like cults. All the professors know themselves. They have good relationship. So it can easily tell you, maybe I will talk to your professor to do this for you, or maybe I would even write. So somebody can write for you even without being in your department, without being in your school. The person can just say, okay, I met this person in this conference, we built relationship. I mentored him after I met him in a conference, and I can see how great he is and all those things. That person can still represent your professor, say something nice, even though the professor didn't teach you. So I think that's all the tips I have.
All right, thank you so much for that. Oh, thank you so much. Then if you don't have the gift of money, maybe monetary contribution and all that, we just want to add that you can also volunteer. I think this is actually a period where most universities just finished the session. They can have script to mark. So you can just reach out to them. Oh, can I help you with this? Can I help you with that? And all that. And if you're also a postgraduate student in any Nigerian university, you can also apply that particular trick. Because they have script to mark. So build relationship with them, connect with them, and you don't have gifts ahead, offer your time. In case some of them may even need help with their presentation slide, attending conferences, and oh, can I help you with your presentation slide? Can I do this? Can I do that now? By doing that, so definitely we are building relationships. So let me just share the key thing.
Sorry, let me just add something now based on what you just said, right? So one of the things you can also do is to tell them, like, oh, you can call one of your professors and say, okay, are you working on any paper? I was one of your students. I'm interested in learning more now. If you don't mind, I can serve as a research assistant and help you to look for materials online. These are gifts, they would appreciate it. They're going to tell you yes, because you are helping them. And in some cases, a professor may just add you as a co-author, and that would go a long way for you as well.
All right. So the key takeaways, we must not give up. So love letters are another. Thank God that the two speakers here, they've experienced their own share of love letters. Yes. So we are not dealing with love letters now. So we must not give up. Definitely, rejections will come. Yeah, but then we just have to forge ahead. Rejection will come, definitely, but just have to forge ahead. Then another thing is the fact that, like Engineer Oluwaseun mentioned, we must not limit ourselves to the United States alone. So try as much as possible to expand your access and all that. Now create options. Yeah, create variable options for yourself to Europe, to even Asian country. You'll be shocked at the level of opportunities available in Asian countries too. So I believe that we are also working towards that particular plan too. So thank you everyone for making it tonight, and special thanks to our two speakers, Ibrahim Nurini and Engineer Oluwaseun Adekola. Thank you so much for making it out of your busy schedule to be here. And Ibrahim, thank you for coming out of the silent space. Yeah, let me put it that way. The silent space in course now in order to make this particular a reality. Thank you so much. I believe that we have all learned one of the things as well now. And on behalf of Engineer Philip, yes, Philip Adebayo wants to be the convener of this particular program, the Rising Stars Initiative. So he's not here tonight. He could have chipped in one or two things as well. So he's busy in the lab, I suppose. Yeah, he's busy in the lab. So Engineer Philip is also a PhD candidate, yes, in the University of Calgary, Canada. So I believe that by next week when we come around for graduate webinar series in Australia, yes, to also chip in his own contribution as well. Thank you everyone as well for making it a reality tonight. And of course, you can reach out to our speakers. Yes, Ibrahim has shared his contact on LinkedIn. Then I believe that Oluwaseun Adekola too definitely will be on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to them. Yeah, this is also how to network. Don't just go and then be like, no, I've attended this particular program and that's so. Actually, take a step further. Yes, take a step further. Take a step further. Reach out to them. Tell them about how insightful their session is and all that. Then you can also collaborate, work on books and all these things together and all that. I believe that they are all equally welcome to give you a good grade and also to see you in the US by 2026, by 2026. Thank you everyone for joining again tonight. I believe that will be one of the things as well. So see you next week for those interested, by the way, in also exploring graduate school opportunities in Australia. So the flyer will be out by Monday. Yes, then we can start putting our registration and sharing as well. Thank you everyone. Thank you. So good night. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.